in science in England. Why can't I speak? It's fun. It's fun. It's not fun. Hey, welcome to the channel. My name's Matt, and today we're going to do my top 10 books of the year so far. So I've read 43 books so far this year, and these are my 10 favourites, excluding any rereads. And for your benefit, I'm going to do my number 1 first and then do some number 10 because, let's be honest, most of you haven't got time to watch the whole video. So you can just watch the first few minutes and capture what the best books of the year so far are. And if you like that style, do like, comment and subscribe. So if we start with number 1. Now I don't have a physical copy of number 1 because I borrowed it from the library, but it is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This book was beautiful. It's just so evocative. I think about it so much even now, and I read this quite early on in the year. It's a story of Piranesi, who lives in the house, which is an enormous structure of stairs and rooms filled with statues and beauty in his eyes. And it's enormous, and it stretches up and down. There's vestibules, there's many stories, there's the ocean that washes in and washes out and occasionally causes flooding, and Piranesi has spent his time just understanding the world, appreciating the birds that come and visit, and understanding how the tides work and getting to be able to live within this house and enjoying life. And he is effectively alone in this house. There is one other person he meets, I think it's every other Tuesday, I forget what day of the week it is or something like that, called the Other, who occasionally visits. But other than that, Piranesi is alone, and you're told the story through his journals, and that's how you discover the reality of the world in which he lives. And there's a bit of a mystery element towards the end, but it's really evocative, and the imagery is just beautiful, and I lost myself within the house, and I can still picture it and visualize it now. And the story itself is interesting, it's fascinating, you learn a lot, but it's the exploration, for me it was the exploration of being alone and being lonely, and that dichotomy that they're not the same thing, and the beauty of that was just magnificent. So that is my number 1 book of the year. So the number 2 book of the year, and to be fair, it had almost pipped Piranesi. It was very, very close. This was, again, I haven't got a physical copy because I listened to it on audio. This was Project Hail Mary by Weir, narrated by Ray Porter, who is now one of my top audiobook narrators because he is fantastic. And if you ever want to experience this book, I would encourage you, if you do have an Audible subscription, listen to it on audio because it is wonderful. This book it's funny, it's touching. It's actually made me a little bit more emotional than I thought it was going to be towards the end, because it starts off it is funny. I don't want to tell you too much about it because I think the less you know, the better. But it's effectively it starts. A guy wakes up in a sort of hospital bed, doesn't know where he is, doesn't know who he is, doesn't know how he got there, doesn't know what's happened to him, has really no memory whatsoever of what's happening to him. There's a computer voice asking him a very mundane mathematical question. I think it's 2 + 2, and asking him for the answer. He can hardly speak. His mouth is really dry and can't really speak. It's just a bizarre place to wake up. And then the story unfolds as he regains some of his memories throughout it, and you get flashbacks, and you get current day flashbacks, and that works so well within this book. The flashbacks add to the story. They don't detract. You never feel like they're taking away from what the main event is happening, but they fill in the gaps. They fill in his knowledge as you go along, and they fill in your knowledge, therefore, as you go along. And it's a story of one of the most beautiful friendships that I have read for a long time. It was superb. I don't want to say any more than that. It's a beautiful book, and it's funny, it's hilarious, laugh out loud moments, but it is magnificently touching as well. So that's Project Hail Mary. That's my number 2. So we've had a fantasy and sci-fi. So for my 3rd book, we're going for non-fiction. And I've talked about this a fair bit, but it is East West Street by Philippe Sands. This book is the history of the creation of the laws of genocide and crimes against humanity, and the people involved in creating those laws, their experiences through the Second World War, to the Nuremberg trials, as well as Philippe Sands' own family members' experience, as well as Hans Frank, who was the Nazi leader of Poland and that area, as well as some other stories within that. And Philippe Sands does a great job of not only giving you a huge amount of detail in this book, but giving you human stories of truly tragic events, but leaving you with a question over the laws that were created as to group or individual. Is there one more important than the other? Are they both equally important? Does by protecting one of them in law impact the other? There's so many questions this asked me and made me think, and I still think about the group and individual and which is more important, or are they equally important? And I don't know, I still don't have an answer for it. But it makes you think, and you see through the eyes of the people who actually created the laws and why they went down the routes they went down. So you've got Lemkin and Lauterpacht, who are the two people who basically created the laws, and how they were incorporated into Nuremberg trials. Fascinating read. If you've got any interest in World War II, the outcomes of World War II, the law of the world, this is worth your time. It really is. And that is my number 3 book of the year so far. So that brings us on to number 4, which again I don't have a physical copy for because I listened to it on audio, but it is The Humans by Matt Haig. So this is my second Matt Haig book. I read his Midnight Library earlier in the year, which I enjoyed. It was good, but this one is so much better for me. It's so an alien comes to Earth and replaces a mathematician on Earth, and this mathematician had solved this mathematical problem, which basically would have enabled humanity to spread among the stars, etc., etc. And the alien race doesn't want them to do that because they're immature, they're barbaric, and they only care about themselves and violence. So they remove that individual and replace him with an alien to go and destroy all the information related to this problem that's been solved. But what it actually is the exploration of what it is to be human. What is humanity? And it's this alien's journey of understanding of how to be human and what it means to be human and the relationships within, or relationships between humans. And it's magnificent. It's as I say, it's humorous, it's funny, it's insightful on the human condition, and I liked it so much more than the Midnight Library. Midnight Library to me was too preachy. This one wasn't as preachy. There's still a little element of it, but it's a much more, for me, it was a much more engaging story on exploration of who we are. The Humans by Matt Haig. Number 5 is a book that I put off for years and years and years. And the reason I put it off for years and years and years is because I watched the film, and I love the film. I watched it when I was a kid. Absolutely adore the film. The film is excellent. And I just thought the book would be the film. And I didn't see any point in reading that. But eventually I got round to it, and actually it was brilliant. It was, the film I'm talking about is, or the book I'm talking about, is Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. So you may have seen the film, as I've mentioned. This book follows a similar thread to the film. Let's not be around it. You know, you've got dinosaurs, you've got someone trying to create a park with dinosaurs in it, and they run amok. But it's different enough from the film to make it a different story. The characters are slightly different within it. They're set up differently. The relationships between them are different. The events that happen are slightly different from the book. It's brilliant, and it's an engaging story about the risks of untamed science breaking loose and breaking free, and a story of human survival within that. And it's a page turner. It's an absolute page turner, and I'm sorry that I put it off for so long, because it's a brilliant, engaging book that I need to read more of this author. I need to read more of Mike Crichton. It's an excellent story, different enough from the film. So if you watch the film and you think, nah, this book is different, if you didn't enjoy the film, you still may not enjoy it. If you didn't enjoy the film, you may still not enjoy the book, because, as I say, the threads are the very same. But if you enjoyed the film, you will probably still enjoy the book and probably get a lot out of it, if you decide to read it. So that's number 5. Right, number 6. Let's go back a bit. Let's go for a classic that I read this year, Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I believe Oscar Wilde's only novel, and boy, what a writer. I'd read one of his plays, The Importance of Being Earnest, which is humorous and just very funny. This is really good. I sort of knew the story anyway, about the painting or the picture of Dorian Gray, and that story of, you know, how the picture bears the burden of his life and his decisions. But what I didn't know about this book, and what I thoroughly enjoyed about this book, is the dialogue, and the ability of Oscar Wilde to write dialogue is otherworldly. It's exceptional. It's engaging. It's good. It's funny. It's insightful. It's witty. It's just, I could read pages and pages of the dialogue, and I did, and I read many more pages. You know, you've got Sir Henry Wotton, who's basically a friend of Dorian Gray, and he would probably be the best dinner guest you could have. He is just a ball, you know, to have at the table. He's so entertaining. His discussions, controversial maybe, but engaging. The story itself is good. It's fun. It's not fun. The story itself is good. It's well told. Oscar Wilde's ability with language is exceptional. There is one chapter in here where it maybe got a bit overindulgent in his verbosity, shall we say. But other than that, it was an excellent read and has inspired me to read a few more classics this year. I did a video on it, more the classics I want to read the rest of the year. But wow, was this good. And what I love about it is it's short, it's a couple hundred pages, so it's not, you know, a big laborious classic, but because the dialogue's so witty, it's a quick read as well. You don't get bogged down in the detail because the read is quick. So good. Number 7, we're going to go back to non-fiction, and we go for The Invention of Nature, The Adventures of Alexander von Humboldt, the Lost Hero of Science. So this is a biography of Alexander von Humboldt, who unbelievably I'd not heard of, which is quite shocking. But we don't learn about this guy in English, in science in English, in England, in science in England. Why can't I speak? We don't know about this guy, but he had a fascinating life, and he inspired. What I found most fascinating is he inspired so many people. Charles Darwin, who we do learn a lot about, probably because he's English. Just going to put it out there, rather than Prussian, which von Humboldt was. But he lived such a life. He went South America and explored. He had contact with and influence on certain American leaders then in the independence. He Simon Bolivar, the eventual dictator in South America, was influenced heavily by him. So there were so many connections and influences. There was different poets and writers that were certainly read his work as well. So it's just incredible. To me, it's incredible. We don't learn about him in school, or I didn't learn about him in school, and I studied biology and I did a degree in human biology. So still didn't learn about him, but he is a fascinating character. The first half of the story reads like an adventure story. When he's out in South America exploring there, it's, plenty of adventure. And then what I love about this is how it tells how he influenced other people. So it's not just his life, but his influence on others as well, and how his work has influenced them. Excellent work, excellent read. As I can't believe I didn't know him, but now I do, and I will continue to remember it. And there's a book I read recently, Braiding Sweetgrass, where she mentioned von Humboldt, and I was like, there you go. See, he is influential somewhere. So that is number 7, did I say? Number 7, The Invention of Nature. It was written by Andrea Wulf, if I didn't say, Andrea Wulf. At number 8, crime thriller. I think the only crime thriller I've read this year so far. Yeah, well, thriller, yes. So, which is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. Obviously, this has been out for a while. I haven't got around to it. It's part of a trilogy. It was Stieg Larsson's debut novel. It's superb. It starts slow and there's a lot of characters you're introduced to at the beginning, most of which share the same surname, which makes it a little bit more complicated. But after you get about halfway-ish, everything picks up. The pace picks up, the danger picks up, the mystery increases and starts to unravel. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and the ending was satisfying. The relationship between the two main characters was engaging, and the main characters themselves are engaging, and they're not pure heroes. There's a grey element, there's certainly a grey element to them, and their lives. And the second one I've now got, which is The Girl Who Played with Fire, but I'm very excited to read the next one. I need to pick it up soon, actually. I don't read a huge amount of crime thrillers. I know this one's a very popular one, and I can see why. But if you haven't read this and you want a mystery, you want a bit of crime, you want a bit of drama, there is violence, there is sexual assault as well within this, so it's not always easy reading, but it is a really engaging read. And once I got over halfway, I struggled to put this book down, and I'll be picking up the next one hopefully this year. I mean, I've got it down there on the shelf, but hopefully I'll pick it up this year. Number 9, so we've got 2 left. Number 9, again, I've not got a physical copy. It was a library borrow, and it was Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, my first T. Kingfisher book. This is I suppose you describe it as a fairy tale-esque story, where you have a young princess, the youngest daughter of a family who run a very small empire, which is a harbour empire, so of critical strategic importance, but surrounded by 2 much larger empires, or kingdoms, I should say, and her eldest sister is married off to the prince of one of the kingdoms to form an alliance and ensure the safety of this harbour kingdom. Her eldest sister then dies, and her older sister, the middle sister, is then married off to the prince, and this youngest sister, who is the main protagonist of the story, is sent off to a nunnery to live. So she's sent off when she's 15, and she stays there for about 15 years. And then, she eventually goes out and eventually find out that the prince these sisters have been married off to is an abuser. And this youngest sister decides that she wants to get revenge on the prince. And so this quest ensues, where she has to get the is it Dust Witch on her side. She has to complete these 3 impossible tasks, which she does complete. So then she gets Dust Witch on side. There's fairy godmothers, there's a goblin market, there's a disgraced knight, there's a demon chicken, which probably still, so have you seen the demon chicken is in. But there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of interest. It's dealing with it's a revenge story in a sense, but a fairy tale-esque. The imagination that T. Kingfisher shows in this is quite remarkable, and it's the relationships between the characters is always great. The godmother, the Dust Witch are probably 2 of my favourite. My only criticism of this book is I felt that the main protagonist came across as very naive, and I kept forgetting she was a 30-year-old woman. She sounded like the 15-year-old girl who was sent off to the nunnery rather than a 30-year-old woman. And that is my only critique of the book, that I found it jarring that she was so naive and 30 years old. That was the only bit that bothered me. The rest of it was great. The story's wonderful, imaginative, and the outcome and the reveals at the end just work beautifully. So excellent read. And my first T. Kingfisher, I know, very popular on BookTube. I've seen quite a lot of people talk about her work, and I will be picking up some more of it in the near future. The House with Good Bones, or The House with Old Bones, I know is a relatively new one, which sounds interesting. So I'll be picking up more of her work. And finally, at 10th place, and none of my favourite lists would ever be complete without a Terry Pratchett book, of course. Admittedly, this one is partnering up with Neil Gaiman, but it is Good Omens. I've read this very recently. It's fun, it's engaging. I mean, I've read a lot of of Terry Pratchett's Discworld novels. Doesn't quite stack up to some of his best Discworld novels, but it's still good. It's still entertaining. It's the apocalypse is nigh, literally. It's happening on Saturday, approximately after tea time. And you've got the Antichrist loose on Earth, but he's an 11-year-old boy. You've got the four riders of the apocalypse, who are great characters. And you get, to me, you've got the death influence from Discworld falling into this. You've got the two best characters are, in my opinion, the angel Aziraphale, and the demon Crowley. They are wonderful. They're over the thousands of years they've been on Earth, they've formed an alliance, a friendship, and they don't want the apocalypse to happen. They don't want the rapture to happen. They're quite happy in the lives they're leading currently, and they don't want it all to end. And their tete-a-tete, their dialogue, their back and forth is my favourite part of this book. You know, in typical Pratchett fashion, I haven't read enough Gaiman to know whether he deals exactly the same, but it's got the English sense of humour. There's a lot of jokes that I wonder if they land if you don't know the geography of England. I mean, it talks about the M25, it talks about Manchester, it talks about a bookshop in Soho, which all have connotations to talk about Milton Keynes. So there's lots of jokes that I think maybe land harder with a English-based audience, but please let me know if you've read this and you live abroad, how well the humour landed. But it's funny, it's got the insightfulness around death, the end of the world, time, good, what's good, what is evil, how do you tell the difference? Is there a difference? It's a great story. The only criticism I have really is the part with the Antichrist 11-year-old boy and his friends. Just always felt like it slowed down the story, and I just wanted more of Aziraphale and Crowley. That was what I'm happy just reading a book of those two, to be honest. But that is my 10th favourite read of the year so far. We're only 6 months in, so hopefully this will all change in the next 6 months and we'll have a completely new list of 10 books. I doubt it, but you never know. It may be the best second half of the year I've ever had. So that's all I've got for you today. That was the 10 best books of the year so far. If you've read any of these, which ones are your favourites or not? Do you have any recommendations for me to what to read the rest of this year? Please let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, please do like, subscribe, share if you so desire. And I will see you in the next one.